Sringadev manifest himself is through the agency of Prahlad. So then there's another 3 chapters. And those other 3 chapters is how the Srimad Bhagavatam manifest. It is manifest by Vyasadeva, because Vyasadeva saw being Trikala Gya. You know the meaning? Trikala Gya. Trikala Gya. Gya, that's the syllable J-N-A. Gya means to know. Right? Like Jnana means knowledge, right? Jnana means knowledge. So Tri means 3. Kala means time. Tri Kala. Yeah. He knew the 3 phases of time. What's the 3 phases of time? Past, present, future, right? Yeah. So Vyasadeva had that power to know perfectly not only what's happening right at the moment, but who knows perfectly what's happening at the moment? Not us. But he knows everything that's happening at the moment, everywhere, like Super Soul, and everything in the past and everything in the future. So he looked into the future, and what did he see? Yikes. Kali Yuga, coming up soon. Because it was the end of Dwarf Yuga, around the same time as Krishna. They were contemporaries. And so, seeing what the Kali Yuga was like, he knew he was compassionate for the people who would be us, subjected to the age of Kali, where everything becomes deteriorated. So what did he do? When you see something and you feel something, compassion, you want to do something. So he was a literary person. What did he do? He took the Vedas that were one Veda and divided into 4. Thus his name, Veda Vyasa. Vyasa means to divide. Veda Vyasa. He divided the Vedas into 4. And then he wrote the supplementary literatures from the same original Veda. And then he wrote a summary of everything in Vedanta Sutra. And that's a lot of work. And then he, like we all will do when we finish something, so probably somebody prepared prasadam. Somebody prepared prasadam for this group? Of course. So whoever's the prasadam preparer is going to want to know, how did it come out? Right? Natural. They like it. So find out who the cook was and compliment them, saying, oh, it was really good. Because they want to know how it came out. So he, having completed this compiling of the Vedas, wanted to know how it came out. So he stepped back and he was considering, how did it come out? He wasn't feeling good about it. And he was wondering, why, what's that feeling? We all know what that feeling is. You do something and you consider, how did it come out? There's something missing. If you're honest, there's something missing. So what's that something missing? That ends chapter 5. And chapter 6 begins. We're going to speak about Prahlad shortly, but I just want to give the background. Chapter 6 begins. Narada Muni comes in for a landing. Just at the right time, saying all the right things. And he said, Vyas, you don't look so good. What's wrong? I don't know what's wrong, but I think you know. I'm not feeling satisfied. And so Narada explained why he wasn't feeling satisfied. Everything that you compiled is completely from within the Vedas. You get an A on your report card. Fantastic. But you didn't sufficiently glorify the personality of Godhead. Too much emphasis. Too much on fruitive activities. People are already attached to fruitive activities, and they're going to think, hey, it's authorized, fruitive activities, kijai. But that's not the purpose of the Vedas. So you should do two things. Sit down in trance of meditation, which he did, and that which you realize you compile a literature just about that, which he did. And that's Srimad Bhagavatam. In its fullness, 18,000 verses. And the purpose of those 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam is to glorify Krishna. He's very specific. When that ends, we're in Canto 1, Chapter 7. This glorification of the personality of Godhead is the means to achieve full perfection, full happiness, full contentment. The sages, head by Shaunaka, hear that and say, Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha, Krishna Katha. So what does he speak about? He speaks about the Pandavas. Because you speak about the Pandavas, you're going to speak about Krishna. Because they're inseparable, isn't it? Wherever Krishna is in this material realm, Arjuna and his associates are with him. Wherever he appears in his Bhoma Lila, Arjuna is there. He's a perfect, eternal associate of Krishna. So you speak about Arjuna, you're speaking about Krishna. Speaking about Krishna, Arjuna is not far away, at least outside of Vrindavan. He's there with Krishna. They come and they go in terms of pastime. There's meeting and separation, but they're inseparable. So Prahlad, to hear about Prahlad is as good as hearing about Lord Nrsimhadev. So it's just this is a preamble from Srimad Bhagavatam, the life of Prahlad Maharaj. And the beginning of the story of the life of Prahlad Maharaj begins with hearing at the dawn of creation the four Kumaras, who are the sons of Lord Brahma. Their names? Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumar were wandering through the three worlds. They had mystic powers. They could go wherever they wanted, and they even went beyond the material world. They came to Vaikuntha. And when they came to Vaikuntha, they were greeted by these two, little pudgy belly, but Jai and Vijay. Who are Jai and Vijay? They're the gatekeepers of the seventh gate of Vaikuntha, because there's 7 gates. Just like Sri Rangam, you have to go through 7 gates to get to where the deity is, right? And they saw these 2 little boys, 4 little boys, naked, looking like 5 or 6-year-old children. And when they saw them, although they weren't ordinary, they thought of them as ordinary. You have no place here in Vaikuntha. You see them with their finger raised like that. You can't enter. Well, that was a problem, because no one has stopped them. They're free to go anywhere. They're fully spiritually Brahman realized souls. And then when they were checked, they cursed them. Here's from the Bhagavatam. Being agitated by the material qualities of passion and ignorance, you are unfit to live at the shelter of Mother Dvisha's lotus feet, which are free from such modes. It would be better for you to go immediately to the material world and take your birth in a family of most sinful asuras. Now there's more detail. They gave them a choice. Fewer choices as asuras, longer number of choices as devotees. They wanted to get back quickly, so they choose the 3 demons. There's another reason given. The other reason that was given, this is from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The Jai and Vijay were not only at the 7th gate of Vaikuntha, but their service was guarding the Supreme Lord's door. So one time, This is Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. The Lord wanted to take rest in his chambers. So he asked them, please stand by the door and don't let anybody come in. Now the Supreme Lord doesn't need to take rest, but it's a pastime. So he wanted to take rest, don't let anybody in. So they followed Lord Narayan's order. And as he was taking rest, the goddess of fortune wanted to enter. They said, sorry, you can't enter. The Lord said, no one is to enter. So she became angry. No, goddess of fortune doesn't need to become angry. And she could remove them if she wanted to, but she didn't. It's just a pastime. And so she waited. And then Lord Narayan came, and she entered. And in a private situation, she explained to him what Jai and Vijay did. And they should be reprimanded. And Lord Narayan didn't want to reprimand them because they only did what he had asked them. Literally, they asked him. He asked them, don't let anyone in. But that was her desire. They should be reprimanded. And at another time, Jai and Vijay were, because they're intimately associated with Narayana, they knew he had a propensity, a chivalry spirit, and there wasn't anyone in Vaikuntha that could be a competitor for him. So they prayed, if you so desire, then please make an arrangement so we can be that competitor for you. You follow? Wait till everyone gets settled. They had a desire, Jai and Vijay had a desire that they could be in that service position of being in opposition to Lord Narayan for his pleasure. Because they're his devotees, and they knew he had this. It's a secondary rasa. Chivalry is a secondary rasa. Just like Bhishma Dev, his primary rasa is servitude. Bhishma Dev's primary rasa is servitude. But he also had a spirit of chivalry, knowing that Lord Krishna likes. So sometimes he would take a position in opposition to Krishna to fulfill that secondary rasa desire of Krishna to have his devotee acting in opposition to him. Really packed up here. Okay. So Jai and Vijay had that desire. Everyone gets settled. So Lakshmi has her desire. Jai and Vijay have their desire. And now the four Kumaras have their desire. It was harmonic convergence. Everything was arranged. That is, Jai and Vijay could go to earth and become in opposition to the Supreme Lord. The goddess of fortune could have her desire fulfilled. They should be reprimanded. And the four Kumaras were satisfied because their curse was fulfilled. Now they can't curse without the endorsement, the sanction, anumanta, the approval of the personality of Godhead. So if you're the personality of Godhead, you can reconcile differences. And some of us aren't personality of Godhead, and to reconcile differences is beyond our capacity. Sometimes it happens. It looks like that at least. So there we see the previous picture showed the giant Vijay saying no, and here we see Sanat Kumar stepping up on the step with his pointing his finger. You take birth on earth as demons. You don't belong here. Now, here's a detail. I hope you don't mind details. I explained this yesterday to a newer set of people, but you're all not a newer set of people. You're nice, experienced people. So, Madhu Dvisha. Madhu, one of Krishna's names, a well-known name of Krishna is Madhusudana. Madhusudana means he's the killer of the Madhu demon. What was the circumstance of Vishnu killing the Madhu demon? It was way at the very, very beginning of creation. Brahma manifested the Vedas from his four mouths, and Madhu and Kaitava wanted to steal the Vedas. And Brahma was very anxious, so he went to Vishnu, help. So he helped. Not only helped, he killed Madhu and Kaitava. Madhu Dvisha, Madhu Sudana is the killer of the Madhu demon. Madhu Dvisha, what does Dvisha mean? What does Dvisha mean? Dvesha, envy. Madhu Dvisha. How is it that the Supreme Lord is envious? That's a bad quality. That's a bad quality, to be envious. We stay away from that one because it's a bad quality. But when the Supreme Lord exhibits it, it's not material. Uh-oh. 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 Like the folk marks, right? I'll try again. Everything that's in this world is not only it's a reflection of the spiritual world, but it's a distorted reflection or perverted reflection of that which is in the spiritual world. Narottam Das Thakur has composed a nice description of how all these undesirable qualities that are here in this world have their spiritual counterparts in the spiritual world, and there's the transcendental position from Lord Narayan to be Dvesha towards Madhu. But it's transcendental. He's the protector of the Vedas. The Vedas come from him. The Vedas are meant for elevation of society, and people that tamper with the Vedas, like Madhu, finished. It's transcendental. It's transcendental. No, Madhu, you don't belong here. You have ignorance and passion. You don't belong here. You should leave here. And so, because of their offense, the two attendants, Jai and Vijay, took 3 births in the material world. First, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, Satyayug. Next, Ravana and Kumbhakarna, Treta-yug. And Shishupal and Dantavakra at the end of Dwapara Yuga. Shishupal and Dantavakra. Not Kamsa. He was Kalaneni in his previous birth. But Shishupal and Dantavakra. And they were all engaged in combat, one way or another, with the personality of Godhead, and satisfying his desire. After the 4 Kumaras scolded them, they got the opportunity to associate with Lord Narayana. The detail isn't described in this canto of the Bhagavatam, but they actually entered into Vaikuntha, and they saw inside the gates of Vaikuntha. There we see the goddess of fortune and many other associates with forms like the Supreme Lord. But you look at his long garland down to his knees, and the symbols of Vishnu in his hands. And there's the 4 Kumaras enjoying the Vaikuntha realm. But Jai and Vijay didn't stay there too long. They descended to the material world, and when they appeared in the material world, the whole earth trembled. And the elder of the 2, Hiranyakashipu. And the younger of the 2 was Hiranyaksha. Look at him, Hiranyaksha. And he was assisting his brother, who liked gold so much, to excavate gold from the earth, so much so the earth fell out of its orbit and plunged into the Garbadak Ocean, which is at the lower half of the inside of the universe. And when the earth fell out of orbit, the demigods were in big anxiety. So what did the demigods do when they get in big anxiety? They go to Brahma. What to do? And as Brahma was contemplating what to do, the answer came. From his nostril came a small creature the size of the tip of his thumb. And that shape was in a form of Varaha. Voice. What's the form of Varaha? A boar, right? You know what a boar is? You know what a boar is? No idea, right? You have an idea? There's what a boar looks like. It's like a wild pig with big tusks. That's a boar. He has big tusks. So he started really small, but he flew in the sky and got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Big as a giant elephant. And Varaha plunged with his hoofs into the Garbadak Ocean, to the bottom of the Garbadak Ocean, and lifted up the fallen Earth planet. And there we see the demigods in the sky watching all this happen. There's another nice painting of Lord Varaha. That's what a boar looks like. Really big enough to lift the whole Earth planet. He was really big. And as he was lifting the Earth planet, Hiranyaksha became very disturbed. So Hiranyaksha came from the depths of the waters and challenged Varaha to combat. Long description, back and forth, but we know who won. Varaha won. And when he defeated the demon, he just hit him on the side of the head with his hoof. Just once, smack, finished. And the news of his younger brother being killed was delivered to his elder brother, Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu was very angry after performing the funeral for his younger brother. There's a very interesting description of pacifying relatives when another relative dies. Hiranyakashipu gazed into the sky with eyes that blazed in anger, making the whole sky smoky. He took a vow. I will kill that person, Vishnu, who destroyed my brother. Didn't happen right away. Didn't get the chance. Instead, he wanted to go to the forest to become immortal. So what did he do? What do you see on the screen here? I'm just trying to keep your attention going, that's all. Don't mind me. That's what you get for sitting next to me. What do you see? Yeah, he's doing some austerities. He's standing on his tiptoes. Try it. Not right now. Stand on your tiptoes with your arms raised in the air. How long can you hold that posture? Well, he held it for a long time. Not just for 10 minutes or an hour or a day or for a year. 100 celestial years. That's a lot of years. And he became very powerful, so powerful, fire was coming from his head. And the residents of the heavenly realm were in big anxiety. What to do? What to do? Hiranyakashipu has become so powerful. They were so distressed. What to do? Meanwhile, so Brahma comes, but before Brahma comes, while he's in the forest doing this austerity, he went to the mountain known as Mandarachala. His wife was back at his palace. His wife's name was Kayadu, and Kayadu was pregnant. So the demigods got the news. Hiranyakashipu left his palace. You know what that means? That the kingdom is unprotected. Let's get our weapons and get our kingdom. He had taken over the kingdom of heaven from the demigods. So they went, and when they came in force, minus Hiranyakashipu, their leader, the demons scattered so the demigods could take over. And when the demigods took over, they found Kayadu. And they saw that she was pregnant. And they thought, uh-oh, Hiranyakashipu Jr. So they arrested her with the idea that they would keep her safely until the child was born and then finish Hiranyakashipu Jr. Again, Narada just happened to come at the right time and say all the right things. And when he appeared, he asked them what they're doing. They explained what they were doing. And he said, the soul that's within her womb is a great devotee. Is a great devotee. So don't arrest her. Turn her over to me, and I'll see that she's protected. Just hearing from Narada, that was enough. They immediately followed what Narada said. They circumambulated her because within her womb was a great devotee, and they went back to their realm. Because, of course, they're in their realm, the heavenly realm. That's where they were. So Narada took Kayadu to his ashram. She made an appeal. Kayadu said, you're a great saintly person. Can you make this arrangement so that this child will not be born until my husband comes back from performing his austerities. Narada said, sure. So that's what happened. And that's a long time for a pregnant mother to be carrying a child, 100 celestial years for Kayadu. Oof. And while that was the situation, Narada gave instructions to Kayadu and the child within her womb. Now, the main instruction was for the child within her womb, which tells something about ladies that are carrying a small child. Hearing spiritual sound vibration is very beneficial, not only for them, but for the child in their womb. It's an important lesson. And she did other services. She lived in the ashram. She was making garlands and doing this and that. And in Narada association, she became very much benefited by his teachings. And, of course, Prahlad, already being an exalted devotee, although she forgot, she didn't lose that spiritual merit of hearing from Narada. We had in the discussion yesterday with a lot of talk about how could she forget after 100 years of association with Narada. She forgot. She forgot because it was just covered. When she went back, hearing that her husband had returned from his austerities, she went back, and in his association, she became again attached to him and forgot everything. It just became covered. Her spiritual benefit wasn't lost, but again covered. No loss, but covered. But Narada, Prahlad, didn't forget. And now let's go back to Hiranyakashipu. Look at this. See him standing there with fire coming from his head. But as he was standing there for that long period of time, some ants started eating away at his body. Supposing in the summer you get a mosquito bite or a gnat or something that's just like chomping away at your skin. You're going to stand there? They were eating his body. All that was left was bones. He was such an austere person. He knew how to circulate his life air within the hollow of his bones. Wow. Powerful guy. So when Brahma came, we see him in the sky in his swan carrier. He used his kamandalu, that's his water pot, and sprinkled some celestial water. And as the anthill washed away, his body became restored, became young and beautiful. And he asked, what would you like? What was the purpose of all this austerity? I want to be immortal. And Brahma said, I'm not immortal. I can't give you immortality. He asked for something I can give you. So he asked for something you could give him. And he was very clever. Well, let me not be killed in the day or night. Okay. Inside or outside? Okay. By land, sea, or water? Okay. By an animal or a human or a demigod? Okay. By any weapon? Okay. He thought, like, I got what I wanted. I wanted to be immortal. But there's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, amongst many nice verses, where Krishna says, I'm amongst cheaters, I'm the cheat. He tried to cheat, he got cheated. Because Lord Nrsimhadev knew how to supersede all those benedictions. Here's a nice painting where Hiranyakashipu has his restored body offering his request to Lord Brahma. And after he returned, Kayadu came back from the forest. She gave birth to Prahlad, and everything was nice, for a little while at least. It was nice because Prahlad had that association, and he was feeling connected to Narada, and through Narada connected to the personality of Godhead. That the difficulty was that he was an ardent devotee, and his father considered Vishnu to be his enemy, wanted to kill him. It wasn't a very good situation at the home. He wanted his son to be trained up, to be educated, to be like him. So what did he do? He placed his son in school. Now in ISKCON we have this way of calling a school a Gurukula. I'm picking on you again. You know what Gurukula is? No? You know what Guru is? Yeah. A person, teacher. And Kula means school. Kula, Guru. Kula is the school of the Guru. Like Krishna, he went to Gurukula. His Gurukula teacher was Sandipani Muni, right? Yeah, Sandipani Muni. You know that story? Kind of. He went to Sandipani Muni's Gurukula. But this wasn't a Gurukula. It was an Asura Kula. Asura means demon. Asura means demon. There's suras, there's demigods, and there's asuras, or demons. Sura and asura. I hope you don't mind my taking on you like this. But you'll learn something besides Maharaj speaking. So he went to an Asura Kula. And the Asura teachers were the sons of his guru. The guru of the demons has a name, Shukracharya. Shukracharya means a seminal guru. Just by birth only, he didn't really have the qualifications of a guru, but by birth he was accepted that way. He had two sons, Sunda and Amarka, and his son Prahlad was entrusted to them to teach him how to be a nice asura. After some time, as the father will do sometimes, he brought his son, sat him on his lap with great affection. He inquired, what's the best thing that you've learned from your teachers? Now, the best thing that he learned from his teachers was not from Sunda and Amarka. The best thing that he learned was from Narada. So he told him what he learned from Narada. And what he said to his father, that a man like you that's engrossed in material consciousness, thinking this is mine, this belongs to my enemy, you should give up that way of life and go to the forest and worship Vishnu. What? Hiranyakashipu called the teachers and said, what are you doing? You're giving him all this love the enemy stuff. What are you doing? And they said, don't falsely accuse. We're Brahmins. Don't speak like this to us. We didn't teach him these things. We have no idea where he learned these things. Then Hiranyakashipu thought, maybe one of the boys in the school is corrupting him. So you better watch out, make sure he doesn't get corrupted. So they took him back to the Asura Kula to try to teach him better and carefully and very personally how to become a good Asura. But it didn't work. He had no interest at all. And so they started asking, where'd you learn this? And you must have heard this from an enemy. And because this whole thing about friend-enemy, I've heard about friend-enemy, but now I'm seeing it. Like, this isn't how you should be thinking. He started instructing them. They tried, but it wasn't going in. It was unwilling to accept that kind of training. Again, after some time, his father invited him. Come see him. Sit on my lap and tell him what's the best thing that you've learned. And what did he say? The best thing I've learned is devotional service to Vishnu. Now, some of you who are a little older than this young boy, you probably know what the 9 processes of bhakti are. 9 processes of bhakti. You know what they are? You've heard of them. Can you recite any of them? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. What's the rest? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. Smaranam. Yeah. Archanam, Bandhanam. Dasyam. Dasyam. Service. Sakyam. Friendship. Atmanivedanam. Full self-surrender. So he said, that's the best thing I've learned. And his father flipped. What? And he decided, you know what? You're devoted to Vishnu and he's the enemy. That means you're the enemy. You should be killed. So he called his associates and ordered them, kill him. His father was not a nice man. Killed his own son because he wanted to worship Vishnu. Well, it didn't work. He had him trampled under the feet of an elephant. But look, there he is riding on top of the elephant. He put him in a vat of boiling oil. Didn't work. Vishnu protected him. Put him in a den of poisonous snakes. He wasn't killed. Push him off a cliff. Didn't work. There's the trampling by the elephant. There's the snakes. There's the fire. Oh, nothing worked. And now Hiranyakashipu started to get worried. He went through some changes. Like, he's a powerful little kid. And everything we tried isn't working. And so they understood. Sanda and Amarka understood. He's in too much anxiety about it. So they came to him and said, look, he's a little boy. We're good teachers. He'll get over it. We'll teach him how to be a good asura. Trust him. Trust him and trust him to us again. We'll work him over. So that's what happened. But it's not what happened. I mean, he went back to school, but he didn't change. Not only he didn't change, but because he had so much devotion to Vishnu, he wanted to help his class friends. So one day when Chandranamarka left the classroom, what do little boys do when the teacher leaves the classroom? That was quick. Party time, right? Let's play. That was quick. You're spontaneous devotee. So Prahlad said, no. Now is the time. Celebrated verse. Quoted so many times. Komara, Acharat Pragyo, Dharman, Bhagavataniha. Celebrated verse. From tender age of childhood, from the Komara age, one should learn devotional service. And then a whole chapter describing devotional service. At the end of that chapter, they said, wow, where'd you hear this? We didn't hear any of this. Where'd you hear it? The next chapter, he said, I heard it from Narada while I was in the womb of my mother. My mother heard it too, but she forgot everything. But I remembered everything and went on with more of what he heard. And at the end, let's go have kirtan. So he has the boys up raising their arms in the air, dancing, singing the names of the Supreme Lord. Until the teachers came back in the classroom. And they saw this whole scene, and they panicked. Hiranyakashipu is going to really be angry. And sure enough, when they went and told him what happened, oh, that's it. Now I will kill him, not just send my henchmen. I'll do it myself. He came and confronted Prahlad. Where is this Vishnu that you talk about? And you know the answer. Vishnu means he's everywhere. He's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? There was Lord Nrsingadev saying, Haribol. He's in the pillar. He's everywhere. So let him come and save you if he's everywhere. and he smashed the pillar. Now, one description is he smashed the pillar with his sword. Another is he smashed the pillar with his fist. There's a very old drawing showing Prahlad pointing to, there's Lord Vishnu in the pillar. So angry Hiranyakashipu smashed the pillar with his fist, and out from the pillar came angry Lord Nrsingadev. I remember the first time I saw this drama, the Lord Nrsingadev drama. I was like, very new devotee, young American kid, and in the temple room. I didn't know this. I didn't know the story, but it's one of the BBT artists. His name was Muralidhar. When the early days of the BBT, they didn't just work on a painting. They had a teamwork. They would get the chance to hear the recordings of Srila Prabhupada dictating the Bhaktivedanta purports and translations. They would sit together and listen to the recordings and then brainstorm what paintings to make to depict the stories. Once they decided, Bharadraj made the line drawings, Jadharani filled it in, and Muralidhar did all the detailed, the jewels and the pupils of the eyes and details and details and details. That was their teamwork. It was a really good paintings made that way. And he was quiet. Muralidhar, by personality, was very tall and a very quiet person. But he always played the demons in dramas. So I didn't know the story. I just knew his gentle personality. So when the drama was happening, he hid behind the curtain that was like a pillar. And when it got to the part where Hiranyakashipu smashed the pillar, he was so loud, he was tall, and had his arms in the air. Everyone ran. It was very scary. Roaring. And grabbed Hiranyakashipu and laid him across his lap and bifurcated him. So that's the story you all know. The Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall. The Supreme Personality Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. And as soon as Hiranyakashipu, this painting shows he's dropping his sword, and there's Prahlad standing next to him. But immediately he grabbed his sword, and with this mystic power and his shield went charging at Lord Nrsingadev. Big fight. Guess who won? Nrsingadev won. Lord Nrsingadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced, and placed the demon on his lap, because that was not in the air or in the water or on land. It was on his lap. And it was not inside or outside, it was on the veranda, neither inside nor outside. And not by weapon, but with his nails, etc. He maintained everything that Brahma had given the benediction of, but he finished Hiranyakashipu. And when he finished Hiranyakashipu, the soldiers of Hiranyakashipu came running to have combat with Lord Nrsingadev. So what did he do? He manifested more arms, and he picked up and finished all these soldiers. I'm going to show you something, hopefully. See this guy upside down on the right side? That guy? He's finished. And there's another fellow over here. Looks like he's losing his head. There's another one of the arms of Lord Nrsingadev. And another one of the arms of Lord Nrsingadev ripping his chest open. And, it was a big mistake going after Lord Nrsingadev, because Lord Nrsingadev won. And there's Prahlad offering his garland. On the right side, there's the demigods. and some on the left side also. Seeing Lord Nrsingadev wishing to pacify the angry Lord Nrsingadev, the demigods offered prayers to make him calm again. He was still angry. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, didn't dare come before Lord Nrsingadev. Finally, Brahma asked Prahlad, you go, because he appeared for you, so you go. And Prahlad, being confident of the affection of his master, was not afraid at all, and offered him respectful obeisances. He came before Lord Nrsingadev, who was seated on the throne, some ripped asunder bodies strewn here and there. Behind him on the left side of the painting, that's the demigods. And when he came before Lord Nrsingadev, he prostrated himself completely. He's in ecstasy, seeing the Lord of his life. Lord Nrsingadev picked him up, placed his hand on his head. Immediately, little boy, filled with Brahma Gyan, according to the Bhagavatam text, and it enabled him to speak very wonderful prayers, although he's just a little boy. He hasn't even hardly begun school, doesn't know big vocabulary and nice ways of saying things normally, but he was empowered, and in full devotion, he offered very beautiful prayers. At the end of his prayers, Lord Nrsingadev wanted to bestow benediction upon Prahlad, but Prahlad said, no thanks. I mean, more than he said no thanks. He said that our relationship is not that of business. In business, people do something with a contract because they got something. So that's not our relationship. Our relationship is only one thing. You're the master, and I'm the servant, and there's nothing else between us. Lord Nrsingadev then thanked him and said, I want you, in the absence of your father, to rule his kingdom and accept the opulence of his kingdom, but don't becoming enamored by it. I'll just read this text on the right. Prahlad said, if anyone engaged in the devotional service of the Lord prays for personal sense gratification, he cannot be called a pure devotee or even a devotee. He may be called only a merchant engaged in the business of give and take. Similarly, a master who wants to please his servant after taking service from him is also not a real master. Prahlad Maharaj therefore did not ask anything from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, he said that if the Lord wanted to give him a benediction, he wanted the Lord to assure him that he would never be induced to take any benedictions for the sake of material desires. But by this time, he has no material desire. Naturally, the relationship of love between servant and master was there. Remember, Prahlad is from Vaikuntha. He's a Vaikunthavasi, and that's where he went to after. In the chapter 10 of this 7th canto, he says to the Lord in his prayers, you sent me to this world to show by example the way of pure devotional service. So he spoke it, and he showed it, and he lived it, and he's a perfect example of a pure devotee. Because a pure devotee not only doesn't want something for himself, but he wants the happiness of others. That's paramount. That's one of the things that Prahlad asked for. Please deliver these people who are too much attached to illusory material life and deliver them to the platform of real happiness. That was what his word. And if you want to take me to the spiritual world, I don't want to go without them. Please deliver them. That's the heart of a devotee. The Lord advised Prahlad to perform sacrifices through bhakti yoga, for this is the duty of a king. He wanted him to rule. So he accepted. Prahlad accepted whatever the Lord had offered him, and he prayed for the Lord to deliver his father. In response to this prayer, the Lord assured him that In the family of such a pure devotee as he, not only the devotee's father, but his forefathers for 21 generations are liberated. So if you want to do something for your parents or your forefathers, become a pure devotee. And if you become a pure devotee like Prahlad, 21 generations. That's pretty good. Now, not too many devotees are pure devotees like Prahlad. But as much as you can become elevated spiritually, just because of family connection, that benefit will also go to your family members. It's a fact. Same message is there in the story of King Riga. King Riga had become a lizard because he made a mistake. Unintentional. Anyway, the same message is described there. Many generations will be benefited greatly spiritually, liberated by you becoming a nice devotee. So he performed the funeral for his father, something like Vibhishan did for Ravana, and that's the end of the Prahlad Maharaj story. There's some places, many places, I didn't make the full range, but there's several temples in ISKCON that have deities of Lord Nrsingadev. You recognize this one, right? Where's this one? New Vrindavan. And where's this one? Mayapur. Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur. Now, how are we doing with time? I see it's 5 minutes to 1. And that crying child somehow got quieted. And let me tell two stories. One is the story behind this deity coming to Mayapur. You know the story? Ugra Nrsinga. It's a long story, but I'll give you the shorter version of the long story. Long, long ago, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at his headquarters, he also had an experience where some dacoits came, and to protect the temple and the Chaitanya Mat, he had them install a deity Nrsingadev for protection. Fast forward in a number of decades, and the same thing happened in Mayapur. Making a long story short, some number of dacoits came, thinking that the deity on the altar at that time, Radha Madhava, were just brass deities. About the same, that came from the same mold as the deities that are today in the Boston Temple and today in the San Francisco Temple, or the Berkeley Temple, excuse me. So, about that big. But Radharani was golden color. They thought she was gold, so they came to steal Radharani and, steal Madhava while they had it. And the devotees woke up, and they went charging after the dacoits, and included in this experience was Bhakti Raghava Swami, fearless brahmachari at the time, had half of his leg shot off by a shotgun from the dacoits. He had to have it amputated, and since then has had 1.5 legs. And many other devotees went chasing after them, etc., etc. So it was settled, let's do what Bhaktisiddhanta did, and let's establish a deity of Nrsingadev. So once that was agreed, they took a train journey to South India for a celebrated murti maker. And while they were in transit, one of the devotees in the train had a dream of Lord Nrsingadev in this form. He had never seen this form before, but in the dream he appeared. So they told the murti maker, we want a deity like this. He said, no, this is Ugra Nrsinga. It's the most intense. It's the moment just before he pounces on Hiranyakashipu. And you make any mistakes, any flaw in your deity worship, you're finished. But they persuaded him. That was in the dream. So they made their deposit, went back. Then there was another man somewhere in South India that was envious of Prabhupada and ISKCON. So he heard that they wanted a Nrsinga deity, so he went to the Murti maker and said, I'll give you twice as much for that deity. And this Murti maker said, no, I can't do that. So the man was disappointed. But he said, don't worry to this man. This is an Ugra Nrsinga deity, and if they make a mistake, they'll be destroyed. Oh, very good. Hurry up and finish the deity. So he went back to his home. The devotees came, and the Murti maker told him what happened. And then when he said, don't worry. The thing that I didn't tell this man was if the Nrsingadev deity is the secondary deity, then he takes on the mood of the primary deity. At that time, the primary deity was Radhamadava, and later it was going to be Panchatattva. So don't worry. Everything will be all right. Very merciful. He'll have that merciful feature instead of the Ugra feature. So they brought the deity back, and there he is, being nicely worshipped in a standard like is performed in South India. And there's many, many, many nice stories. I sent up, there's a link or something like that. I forget the number of pages, 80-page book. It's a PDF. Bhakti-Dari, could you find out who to give the link to? And then they can circulate, and you can read all these nice stories of this Nrsingadev deity giving blessings to people, curing people, and all kinds of amazing things. Between now and Nrsinga Chaturdasi, you can read about this particular deity and how he's very merciful. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So that's our little description of Prahlad Nrsinga. And I said I was going to tell two stories. That was one. Here's the second story. The second story is a description given by Jiva Goswami in his Bhakti Sandarbha about a different appearance of Lord Nrsingadev other than from the pillar where Hiranyakashipu wanted to kill him. And this is Jiva Goswami, that means it's fully authoritative. He's quoting from Vishnu Damotara, that's the source. And I'll just read. A great devotee Brahmana named Vishvasena, Vaishnav Brahmin, wandered about the earth. One day, he entered the edge of a forest. The son of the village leader came out to him and said to him, "Who are you?" When the Brahmin identified himself, the son said, "Today my head hurts. I cannot worship Shiva, my worshipable deity. You do the worship in my place." It gives the Sanskrit, right, in Bhakti Sandarbha. And the Brahmana answered, "I'm a Brahmana dedicated to Vishnu. I should worship only Vishnu. I worship no one else, therefore, quickly, leave me." When he said this, the son raised his sword to cut off his head. The Brahmana considered it not desirable to die by his hand and said, "I will go." Going there, he thought in his mind, because he increases ignorance, for this reason Shiva is in Tamagun, Nrsinga should appear here and stop the worship of Shiva, since ignorance can be broken with eradication of Shiva's associates. Just as the sun rises and with its rays destroys ignorance, I will worship Nrsinga in the Shiva deity, since Shiva's worshippers have worshipped him in this form. Taking a handful of flowers, he said, "I offer respect to Nrsinga." The son of the village leader raised his sword in anger. Suddenly, the linga split open and Nrsinga appeared, killed the son and his followers. comments. In the south, there is a deity of the name Linga Spota that is where this event took place, where the Brahmana, Vaishnava Brahmana, Vishvaksena, was protected by Lord Krishna coming from the Shivalinga. Let's see if there's some discussion. We have a little portable microphone. If you'd like to say something, we can hit. You don't need it, but there may be some people remote that can't hear us. Hare Krishna.
They were guarding at the order on the orders of Supreme Lord.
Because the Lord wanted it. Because the Lord wanted to reciprocate with their desire. It was a lila for them to have their desire fulfilled. Their desire was, our Lord likes chivalry. But who is there? So we can do if he wants. That was the prayer. They didn't stand at his door and say it, but that was their private prayer. So he fulfilled their desire. As he likes. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So when Hiranyaksha was killed because he took the bhumi and he took a lot of gold, and then bhumi fell into the
Garvadak ocean.
Ocean. Question is like the Hiranyakashipu was meditating on Mandrachala mountain, but where was Hiranyakashipu residing at that time when bhumi fell?
Doesn't say. It may be his palace. It doesn't say. But if he fell in his palace, then didn't he fall into the ocean also? That's your question?
Yes.
Yeah. He was in the heavenly realm. He had bumped off. Excuse me. He had invaded the heavenly realm and taken over.
Oh, so he was in heaven.
Well, he was. That's where he was. In Indraloka. He took over.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So both the guards, they wanted a quick association with Lord. So instead of choosing the real devotee path, they chose the demonic path so that they can reach him sooner. So
that was the external reason, and the internal reason was they wanted to fulfill his desire to have combat.
I was just thinking, when do bad karma, then Lord will
That's a
come.
good idea.
So, yeah, that was internal desire of Lord to.
When devotees like these personalities, these aren't ordinary bhaktas. They're not sadhakas. They're perfected souls. So the perfected souls act in a way that super soul gives them intelligence, or the Lord gives them intelligence. And so they acted the way that they did because the Lord was inducing them to act the way that they did. And the whole shebang. I mean, why, including not letting them in. Everything. Something over here?
Hare Krishna. Maharaj,
Hold the microphone right up here. There we go.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, this is not a question regarding our Narasimha story.
It's off topic.
Yeah, different
Okay.
topic. Actually, she asked me yesterday or day before yesterday, I don't remember, but yeah, why Balaram appeared as elder brother in Dwapar Yuga and younger brother for Rama. Why he appeared differently? She asked me.
That's a nice question. Very thoughtful. One explanation that's commonly offered is Lakshman had to go through a lot of difficulty because he was the follower of his elder brother. And in Vedic culture, the elder brother takes the lead and the younger brother follows the elder brother. So I don't want to go through that again. I'll be the older brother. Now that's one explanation. Now another explanation is because Balaram, although he was the elder brother, his mood was still subordinate or subservient to Krishna. But there were some times when he acted as if not subordinate to and subservient to Krishna. Can you think of an example? I can remind you of an example. The marriage of the sister. Who was the sister of Krishna and Balaram? They had a sister, Subhadra. And who ended up marrying Subhadra? Name starts with an A. Arjuna, right? Arjuna. But there was a plan for Balaram, not Arjuna, but somebody else. Who is that somebody else? Duryodhan. Could you imagine Subhadra marrying Duryodhan? Forget it. But he's the elder brother. So Krishna arranged a clever way that Duryodhana wouldn't marry Subhadra, but Arjun. And when Arjun came and kidnapped her, right? Scooped her up, putting on his chariot, and drove off. Balaram was furious. Stop him. But before he did that, he went to check with Krishna. Because he was subordinate to Krishna, although he was the elder brother. And Krishna said, oh, it's very good. What? What do you mean very good? It's dishonor. We have to stop him. I think it's very wonderful. And he gave 6 different explanations. And because Krishna was in favor, Balaram became in favor, although he's the elder brother, because he likes being in service to Krishna, even though he's the elder brother. The pastime. Someone else? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for coming. So this is unrelated to Narsingadev, but I know that currently in the world there's a lot of like negative things happening.
A lot of negative what?
Negative just things, like there's the war in Ukraine, and
Yeah.
just we see so many negative like
Lots of
influences
negative stuff.
in our life. So how would you suggest combating that, like as a devotee, to like get like whenever you hear these negative thoughts, how to like overcome those and like focus on Krishna while you're still trying to do other things? Because we know that in our daily lives we have other duties than serving the Lord. It's like going to school, going to work. So how would you recommend we still keep Krishna as the center of our attention while doing our other duties?
Well spoken.
Thank you.
Huh? It's such an important question that this topic was made into a seminar, and that seminar has been presented at least 10 times. And the most recent one was in Gitanagari with a group of 100 people that went to Gitanagari without even knowing anything about Krishna consciousness or Bhagavad Gita or ISKCON or Japa or nothing. And that was our topic, because it's on people's minds. The topic, the heading was The Art of Meditation, Overcoming Negative Emotions. The first time I present, I'm going to address your question by just using examples. The first time I presented this was in China. And the reason was the devotee wanted people that knew nothing about ISKCON, and you have to be really careful for different reasons in China about, Krishna comes out of the box. You have to be careful for different reasons. So this was the topic. And in the course of the first day's presentation, which we just did in Vietnam also, and many other places, many universities, and many other places, the person in charge of the arranged the event told me in confidence they work for a corporation that has many, many, many employees, and it just happened that day that one of their executives committed suicide. They jumped from the seventh-story window of a building and splattered on the sidewalk. And immediately, the corporation ordered all executives must take a meditation course because they know that meditation helps. So in this presentation, there's a whole thing about how it helps. But, meditation in itself isn't, people do meditate and still get stressed out. Have something. Yeah, wake up. But you're next. Promise. Okay. That's what I get for picking. Stimulating. The principle of connecting with higher consciousness or going beyond the material conception of life is the cure. Say it negatively. The cause of those negative emotions has everything to do with misidentifying the self with the temporary. And identifying with the good is just the flip side of identifying with the bad. It's the same point. Because you go for this side of duality. You're in duality. Wait a while, this is going to become that. Day is going to become night. Pleasure is going to become pain, etc. It says those who are absorbed in duality, the Sanskrit phrase is abhinivesh, absorption in dvitiya, duality. Those who are absorbed in duality are going to experience positive and abundant negative emotions because this place is designed like that. Krishna confirms. This is a place, by design, is a place of dukkha. Jails are not a place of nice atmosphere. By design. You don't want people to stay in jail, so you make it nice. So the material world is like a prison house. It's not nice. And so how do you navigate your way? By connecting with transcendence. And then, the beginning is you tolerate, but as consciousness rises, the configuration of matter changes. And your ability to see beyond the temporary changes. Your connection with the eternal becomes more prominent. Then you can become an instrument of transcendence instead of victim of duality. That's the method. Easier said than done, of course. But that's the method. And that's what Bhagavad Gita is wanting. And, frankly, that's what Prabhupada wanted. Because that's what the devotional teachings provide. He wanted that everyone become happy. He saw that this unhappiness is completely unnecessary, but it's built into the way people live their lives. They're stuck to duality, and here comes the ugly features of duality. And it gets darker and darker. It doesn't get lighter as Kali Yuga progresses, darker and darker, darker and darker. So the idea is not to become a liberationist. Let's get the heck out of here. It's getting darker and darker. But the idea is, let us receive the mercy of the name and teachings and what you've done, etc., and let us distribute that to others. Prabhupada dedicated his life, and our life is meant to do the same. If we're the recipient of that, genuinely, it's easy to distribute it. So first comes receiving. And when you try to give, it helps the receiving. It's not like a bell will ring when it says, now you're ready to But so the method, in short, in that same verses, 11:2:37, I think is the verse. I'll send you I've made it into a PDF. There's the verse spoken in the Bhagavatam and commentary by our acharyas. Vayam dipiyam abhinivesh taksyat. So it tells why the negative emotion is there, and then the second half gives the cure. The second half of the cure is hearing sound vibration that's of a transcendental nature, cleanses consciousness of the negative, and lifts consciousness to the positive. That's the cure. What to do. How to do it. But you have to stay with it. Not like snap your fingers, okay, distress is gone. Cultivation. Okay, we're ready for your question. We have the microphone up here for this young man. You're next. But you
Krishna Maharaj, when
hold it straight, just like you're eating ice cream. Here we go.
when the person that got eaten on like the ants ate his body, he said the prayer, but then Prahlad Maharaj's dad got the prayer, but because the other person got the prayer.
His father, Hiranyakashipu, got a benediction from Prahlad. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because his son was saintly. No, that was great fortune. Although he saw it otherwise, like, I want to kill this kid. Because he's devoted to my enemy, so he's my enemy. But he was like upside down. But he got purified because of the presence of his son in his family. And that's the whole idea. Become pure. And even if people around you are, upside down, they're going to get benefit. That's the lesson. It's a surprise, isn't it? He was a bad guy, and he got a benediction. So how'd that happen? Because his son was pure. So you become pure, and even people you don't know, distant relatives, generations before, become pure, and they'll get benefit just by you becoming pure. That's the life's assignment. Does that answer your question? Something? Anyway, yes, in the back.
I have a few questions, Maharaj. So the austerities that Hiranyakashipu was
Take your
doing,
mask off, because then I can hear you better. Thank you.
the austerities that Hiranyakashipu, such kind of austerities.
I don't know. I don't know if he got them, where he got them from. That's your question. I don't know where he got them from.
Because still Lord Brahma came and gave
Yeah,
him.
your question was, those particular austerities, are they mentioned in Scripture? And I don't know. But they likely, he didn't pull them out of the air, but I don't know. Next.
And like such persons who have like materialistic goals, why such persons are granted boons? What is the basis of?
It's the liberality of those who are givers of boons. They're liberal. Now, for you to become a giver of a boon, you have to become qualified, and with that qualification, liberal with that qualification.
Because it mentions that Lord Brahma was very happy to see his austerities. That those were the words.
It's mentioned that he was happy to do what?
Lord Brahma was happy to see Hiranyakashipu's austerities, and that's how he.
Well, he wasn't happy to see the motive behind the austerity, but he was happy for the austerity.
Right. So,
Next. These are tricky questions.
Maharaj, like Satya,
Yes, but no, she's speaking besides this one. Why is it, in a broad sense, bad people do austerities, and they ask for benedictions, and they're given benedictions, although they're bad people? Like Brikasura. I mean, there's many examples. Bad. But there's the persons that give the benedictions, they may be liberal. Even if that thing is going to be used in a hurtful way. Not good. Later, Lord Vishnu said, don't do this again. And he did it again. Huh? They're liberal. Yeah. And they're liberal. There's Prabhupada's words, you know, Brahmana and Kripana. And I was just listening to a lecture this morning, and Prabhupada was asking, what's the opposite of miser? And no one said anything. So he said liberal, and no one said anything. So then he just said liberal. They're liberal. They have, but they're not, they're ready to distribute what they have. They have some power. They're not misers, they're liberal. Okay?
because in current scenario also, Maharaj, not many people are God conscious, but they are being given many things also.
Yeah, they're not only given, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but I read something somewhere that said Osama bin Laden was known to be very austere. And because he was very austere, he became very powerful. And he's a demon. But, so, next question.
Satya Yuga is known for peace, tranquility, Maharaj, and pure goodness is prevailing. So how come these two demons?
Because there's always duality. In this material world, there's always duality.
Last question, Maharaj, that we had discussed, Maharaj, in previous classes that the form of Lord that a devotee actually is seeing or worshipping in his heart, that form appears before him.
Ah,
So I'm not sure because this form is very unique
it's unique.
and which actually fulfills that the conditions that were given.
Yes.
So how come Prahlad Maharaj can already see that form?
Why not? Because he was pure. And the Lord was appearing in his mind or his heart. And he could see because the Lord appeared. And then he appeared outside. Why not? He's everywhere. Why not?
Thank you so much.
Our limitation is not the Lord's limitation. You have a question? Okay, over here. I think we're going to end with this one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is that, like, did Hiranyaksha do anything in his past births to be the one to die first?
No. It just went with the flow of the Leela. In his past birth, he was Vijay. Hiranyakashipu was Jai. And they're brothers. Or, yeah, brothers. Jai, Vijay. So they were brothers. And it just fit the Leela. First, the earth has a problem. Lord appears, rescues the earth, finishes Hiranyaksha. Hiranyakashipu becomes angry, takes a vow that he's going to kill Vishnu. It just fits the Leela. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada.